Hi, I'm really happy to be here. This is a beautiful campus, and I feel really lucky to have the opportunity to spend time here next semester. And the first thing I want to tell you is don't ever believe anyone that says business reporting is boring. There's drama in it. And one thing to think about is, look at what happened in the financial crisis of 2008 and how it affected the lives of every single person in America. And it affected pretty much every country worldwide, especially those that were involved in investment banking. People my age had the retirements drop by half. The country lost something like $11 trillion in net worth, mainly the middle class, which the candidates keep talking about, right? So it affects our lives in so many ways, and there's a lot to be said for even if you don't want to go into business reporting, and I can tell you honestly what it's like to be at Bloomberg News and Dow Jones, I have friends there. Think about it, if you cover healthcare, you need to understand at least the basics of accounting, the very basics. You need to know the difference between a revenue and net income. You need to know how it's funded. Is there a government subsidy? You need to understand some of the basics of economics to understand healthcare really well. When I covered healthcare in New Hampshire for an NPR station, one of the stories I did went national because of my business background. I found a man who was once an insurance commissioner, and I interviewed him about a company he started, which was basically created to prove that President Bush's idea of using the high deductible insurance schemes would be much better for America. And his company failed, and he opened up to me and told me why his company failed. And the bottom line for him was he didn't expect to have that many sick people. And it was an insurance company. And I had that quote in the story. He just didn't expect to have that many sick people. So the company just went into the red and had to close. The insurance commission had to actually shut it down because it did not have enough money in its coffers to cover the claims. So, another thing you need to understand is regulation. Companies are regulated in some cases. The difference between a private company and a public company and how to find data on each one. There's so much, now we're talking about the sort of fundamentals, but there are people involved in all of these businesses, and once you start interviewing them, even the CEOs, they have dreams. Talk to them about their dreams. Sometimes there's a lot of drama, like if you look at Jack Welch, who ran General Electric for so many years. Bloomberg News broke a story about him and all the money he spent that he should not have spent at GE by looking at his divorce records from the court system. Found all this money that he had been spending on his friends and wife, and so you can look at divorce records to find out about a business. There's just so much that you can learn that is both human and affects the lives of people around you. GE, all the banks that failed affected all of us. So that's my little pitch. Even in science, I've done science reporting. In science, at MIT, for example, I can find out who are the companies funding the scientific research. So let's say you're in the journalism world, you're sitting at a desk and somebody hands you a science study or a medical study. How about one that says coffee is good for you again? They go up and down on that. So what are you going to look for in that study to figure out if it's a good study before you publish it? You want to know who funded it. Was it funded by the coffee industry? So, everything somehow relates to money, which is why the old adage in journalism, follow the money, it matters. But you cannot follow the money if you don't understand how it works. And it can be complicated and it can be simple. So that's my little pitch on business, and I think the course descriptions that I'm working with now with Paul Parsons and with the Reynolds Foundation. Does everyone know about the Reynolds Foundation and why they are sending professors around? They are funding 3 professors this year at 3 universities, including Elon, because they feel like there are not enough journalists out there who understand finance and economics, and they're right. A study that they did showed that they interviewed editors from around the country, and 38% of them said the hardest journalists to find right now are those that understand money and finance. So if you do understand it, you definitely have more opportunities. And if you don't want to write about money and finance for the rest of your life, at least understand it enough so that you can get through a job interview and you can talk about revenue and income and what the SEC does and what is the Federal Reserve, the basics. That helped me get every job that I've had. You know, sometimes I did not really want to write for investors at Bloomberg News, but I left Columbia University with debt. and when that came up, I was quite happy. So I'll tell you about me in a minute, but first of all, I'd like to hear about you, and I'd like to know what you're interested in before I tell you more about me. Is that okay? Maybe each one of you could just tell me your name, where you're from, and what your interest is in journalism. It doesn't have to be about business.
I'll start. I'm Rebecca. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm interested in entertainment journalism.
Oh, cool. Okay. See, you need to know about money and